Okay, so this is first stage tutorials on basic duct taping and using duct tape as a cloth material for all of your construction needs. First thing we're going to talk about is just the materials that you'll be using, and so obviously the first thing is the actual duct tape. Very many different types of duct tape, different brands, all of which will give you cheaper or more expensive duct tape that has different qualities to it. For example, this stuff here, two 60-foot rolls that were $10 at Home Hardware. So that's pretty cheap as far as duct tape goes. 60 yards each and $10. You're not going to find it anywhere cheaper. It's the official Home Hardware brand, and it's good as a general duct taping for when you're creating the base of most of your projects. Remember that colored stuff will always be more expensive, so you probably want to stick to the lower end stuff when you're actually just building stuff. If you want a finished polished product, then you're going to go with Duct brand duct tape, in my opinion, is probably the best stuff. Haven't seen too much other stuff, but there's also Industrial Adhesive Group, I believe, which makes another one, and it's fairly good quality duct tape as well. So this one, the downside to it, as there are downsides with a cheaper one, is the way it rips. Now, it only rips really well horizontally, so across the width of the duct tape. Vertically, it leaves even more of a unpolished finish. It's very spiky just on the normal rip across the width of it, and vertically it's almost impossible. It actually starts to stick to itself, and I've got some Duct brand duct tape here that doesn't do it. So it rips much finer, it's far less rugged, and vertically exactly the same, in fact almost smoother. So choose your duct tape wisely. Use a gray base for most projects, and then cover it over just different colors if you're worried about saving money. If you've got an unlimited supply of wealth, then you're probably going to want to go for Duct brand duct tape, because it's probably the best. And as far as I'm concerned, it's got the widest range of colors. This stuff does come in other colors. It comes in yellow, green, red, blue, white, black, and it's about $7.50 a roll for colored stuff for 60-yard stuff, versus this is, I think, 25-yard, and it's about $5. So the other stuff, though cheaper, if you don't mind working with scissors, then you're fine. Next thing, scissors. So you can go with the cheap range of scissors right here. Nice cheap scissors. I picked them up at Walmart for like $2.50. They're gonna, the key to having scissors with duct tape is to take care of them, and when you're taking care of them, these will gum up when you're cutting and everything, right? They're actually a little gummy now, but if you really want to keep them going for as long as you can, glass of water. Remember not to drink this by accident. I have, and it basically tastes like chlorinated water, like pool water. If you just dip your scissors in and snap them around a few times, you can dry it off if you like. It doesn't particularly matter. What this does is makes your scissors actually cut the duct tape with a thin layer of water. So the duct tape, the adhesives of it, never actually sticks to the scissors. It always stays on the water, really. So it gets washed away. And I did this every, I don't know, 20 cuts probably with a pair of scissors, and that will preserve your scissors. I've gone through nearly 3 pairs because I didn't use water, and then I learned about this, and this pair of scissors has been going with me for about 4 months now, since the summer, I guess. The other thing is you probably want to pick up an X-Acto knife. It's the other form of cutting, which is more for precision work, I guess. You have to be very careful with it, and unless you make more defined shapes as opposed to scissors, they give you a nice smooth cut. X-Actos gives you a nice precise cut, but this can cut through many layers versus the scissors. They start gumming up on you. You can't use the water, but you're just never going to get the same square effect that an X-Acto knife will give you. A nice normal effect right there of X-Acto knives. There is an exception to that, which is this new pair of scissors I got, which snaps in half, which is really nice. So it's a little fancy pair of scissors. I'm not sure what range we're talking about. It's Fiskars scissors, and they snap right in half, so that you can use the black one here as a cutting tool for duct tape, which is essentially the equivalent of the X-Acto knife here. So it cuts like a normal knife, but it gives you a nice little crisp cut on it, and that's really useful. Last thing about materials we're going to talk about is the actual thing that you're cutting on. So underneath this board here is my normal cutting surface. It's a hard plastic table that I don't mind cutting up, so I can make a lot of gashes. You might see them there, and we keep it outside anyways, so it doesn't particularly matter. But the board here is a 1/2-inch pine board that's mowable, right? And it's got a nice flat surface. Try to get one without too much of a crown in it, so a flat one rather. You see a crown is when it actually pokes out, and you'll probably cut into that, and you'll see a lot of scratch marks from X-Acto knives and stuff like that, but it doesn't particularly matter if you just pick up a piece of board like this. It's probably going to run you $10 max. I imagine they're even cheaper than that. I have no idea what lumber costs these days, but it's a very cheap product, and you could go with a cutting board too. I'd go with a plastic cutting board, because ultimately you can wash it off if anything happens, and it's just beautiful like that. Now for the actual making part of the duct tape. So, nice piece of duct tape here. There are essentially 3 methods of taping for creating sheets of duct tape. I'm going to show you the sort of classic one here. That is on the Duct brand duct tape website. So we've got a single piece of duct tape. Then we've got another piece of duct tape here, and I'm sticking it halfway down the other piece of duct tape. So we've got a half of a sticky side on that side and a half a sticky side on this side. The downside of this is, of course, that there's the fine ridge here. You have to stick on both sides, so you're never going to, if you're taking care of the surface and you don't want to gum it up, even if you don't mind making cuts in it, or if you're just cutting in the air like I just did, then you don't want the sticky side down because it gets junk on the table. And the next thing is, of course, when you actually fold over the duct tape at the end. So I just fold down the duct tape to give it a nice smooth finish, so that none of the sticky side is on top, sticking out on you. When you're folding the duct tape, you get that line right there that it's going to be sticky no matter how well you fold it, and also that it looks a little irregular. No, that's a preference thing. It's going to be strongly built, but you get the weird lines there that I'm not a big fan of, and so it's going to outline your entire work and expose flaws if you're not making a square or patterned thing, but chances are you're going to color over it essentially. Okay, the next method of making duct tape is the other pure duct tape method. Which is to essentially stick 2 things of duct tape together like that. So, as opposed to the last method with sticking the sticky sides to each other halfway, this one is sticking the very edges of the duct tape. So you're getting thinner and thinner each time you do that, but so you'll have to have slightly more amount of duct tape used each time, but gives it a much better look in my opinion. And the other downside, of course, is you have to be very precise when laying it down, otherwise you're going to get a lot of bubbles, which do not look good. But if you line it up correctly and take your time, and you get a nice finish like that. And that's probably my favorite as far as pure duct taping goes. It is slightly less strong. I don't think I'm going to get that apart though, so I'm not going to be too worried about it. But remember that you overlap, I'd say, at least 2-3 millimeters. So, I don't know, a 64th or a 32nd of an inch. You want to overlap a little bit, right? So that you can actually pull them apart, and so your duct tape art stays together. My latest and favorite duct tape cloth making method is using paper. I know it sounds a little silly, but it gives you the much more rigid feeling, and ultimately produces a nice clean finish. So, I'm just taping duct tape onto either side of the paper. The other downside is, of course, that you have to use paper. I know, I'm a bit of a duct tape freak, so I'm a little annoyed that I'm stooping to this level using paper. Oh, the audacity. But also, it's annoying when you've got 8 by 10 pieces of paper, or legal size, or whatever you're using, and you have to abide by it and then cut off pieces and form the proper shapes that you want so that you can duct tape them together. I know I built a tuxedo out of it recently, and it was quite annoying to cut all of the fine curves in the paper first. So, let me just tuck tape the other side to give you a bit of idea. With this method, it gives you probably the cleanest finish. It's also significantly more rigid. I'm going to try to show you that here. It's not going to really show. This is quite wobbly versus this one, which is actually, it's making a faint cracking sound when I do that. So it's staying together on its own. The other thing is that I can fold it and it creates a firm bend in it versus this one here. If I fold it, it's a bit of a lighter bend, so it doesn't give you the same effect. That's my duct tape tutorial on basic fabric. Hope you enjoyed.